IVF Real Talk.
I'm Lucy.
And I'm Yael. Welcome back, guys. Today we're joined by Professor Deirdre Zander-Fox.
Welcome.
Oh, thanks, guys. It's awesome to be here. Thanks for having me.
We're excited to have you join us. Today we're talking about all the exciting things in the lab with Deirdre from Monash IVF.
But before we do, we need to jump into our ChatGPT segment. So we've asked for 3 fun facts. So every doctor that joins us, we have to do this segment.
Yes.
So let's kick off with the first one. So Chat has said Professor Deirdre works on advanced sperm injection technology called, and I don't know how to pronounce this, so I'm going to spell
Give
it.
it a go.
PIEZO, ICSI, which may improve fertilization rates and embryo quality compared with standard ICSI methods. Is this true?
Yes, it is. So it's pronounced piezo. So
Piezo.
that's the way to go. We call it piezo, and it's a different type of micro-injection technology. Yes.
That is so impressive. That's so cool.
So the second one, Professor Deirdre is part of Australia's mitochondrial donation clinical trial work, cutting-edge research aimed at preventing inherited mitochondrial disease. Is this one true?
That is true. Yeah. So I'm part of a very exciting research collaboration that is trying to help people with mitochondrial disease not pass that on to their children.
Wow.
So very exciting research and clinical trial.
Oh my
You're
goodness.
busy.
I'm busy.
Yeah, this is really impressive. And the last one is she has collaborated internationally with fertility clinics and researchers, including Japanese IVF specialists, working on newer fertilization techniques. Is this also true?
Yes, it is true.
Wow.
Yeah. So all the work with piezo, the thing we talked about first, I did all of that in partnership with some clinics in Japan. So true.
Does that mean you speak Japanese?
No, absolutely not.
I was going to say, because that just takes it up another notch.
I can get a couple of sentences out from my high school days. That's about it. Yeah.
Well,
I love it. That's impressive.
I tried to ask Chat I'm like, Chat, just give me some more personal fun facts. And it's like, no, Deirdre is very private. This is what I've got for you.
Yeah, back off.
That's so funny.
This is better than a coffee order, so I like it.
That's
it's good.
true.
It's good.
Yeah.
But now we'll hand it over to you to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and how you ended up in the IVF space.
So I've been in IVF for just over 20 years now. I started right back in 2004 as a little baby embryologist back in Adelaide when I started training while I was doing my PhD at Adelaide University, and just fell in love with it and have been doing it ever since. Once I finished my doctorate, I stayed in the field. So probably one of the driving reasons why I did this was because of my mum and myself. So I was a very early ART baby back in the day. So my mother took 10 years to have me. Wow. So I think that sort of personal reason is a bit of a driver, maybe underlying. And I do think this industry is just extraordinary in what it can achieve and help people have families. So been doing it for a long time and haven't left. I love it.
I have goosebumps.
That's really special.
Yeah.
And your mum must be so proud. That's really special for her too.
Yeah, she was. She has passed away, so she passed away, but she was very proud. She loved the fact that I was in this industry. She loved the little egg and sperm pens that I used to bring home. That's our merchandise. She'd always use those. So, yeah, I think it brought her a lot of pride. Absolutely.
You're doing amazing work.
That is amazing. Oh,
That's
it's
incredible.
such a special job. We've always said that.
Without the embryologists, there's no IVF. And I just think it's so amazing what you guys do. Even just those 3 fun facts.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Well,
they're not fun facts.
not
we
fun.
could do a whole episode. We could do a whole episode just on that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, should we get into the questions?
Yes, let's do it.
Let's jump in.
Excellent.
Okay. So the first question, most people meet their nursing team and their specialists, but what role does an embryologist play?
That is an excellent question. So the embryologist is the person in an IVF journey, or the group of embryologists who are the people who are responsible for the eggs and the sperm and the embryos and taking custody of them and looking after them, bringing them together, taking the egg and the sperm, creating the embryo, and then looking after as it grows for that sort of 5 to 6 days in the laboratory. So that's their role. They look after them, move them around, freeze them, take a biopsy for maybe genetic testing, But they're also the people who do a lot of patient communication and care during those sort of 5 to 6, 7 days. So they're the people who give you your updates and tell you what's going on. So they're pretty extraordinary in the fact that they're basic scientists, but are also looking after you and giving you that information during your journey.
Yeah, I remember I loved speaking to my embryologist on my journey. Both times. My first time I had a zero fertilisation round and she was just incredible at explaining it to me and giving me detail. And then the second time I didn't get to speak to my embryologist. It was more so the nurses that gave the updates at this clinic. But I was like, no, I want to speak to the embryologist. So I said to the nurse, I said, no offense, but I just want to speak to my embryologist. And she put me through and she was so lovely, because I think sometimes you just want a little bit more detail as a patient. You just want to know a little bit more. And I feel like you guys, really can explain that to us and make it easy for us to understand as well. Did you speak to your embryologist?
Yeah, I did at my first clinic as well. And I had a few transfers there, a few too many, but that's all right. But yeah, so I found that all of them just had this vibe about them. Like they were just so fun,
cool.
so upbeat. Cool. Yeah. There was just I just thought, oh my God, these guys are awesome. Like they were quirky and I just loved it. And it was also really special, like you said, to speak to the actual embryologist who can explain the details of what's going on and why things may or may not have, worked out how we thought, and just break it down without still have that science and the medical piece, but also just that human element of explaining it so that we could understand it.
Yeah, they care very deeply about what they do, and they love communicating it and explaining it to the people who've, given them the custody of those eggs and sperm and embryos. So they are an extraordinary bunch.
I feel like especially during that 5-day wait, it's such a hard wait.
It's so hard.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
And you're just thinking about, your embryos or your eggs, or if you're freezing eggs, the whole time.
Yep.
So it's nice to actually speak to someone on the other end of that. Yeah. So the next question, what are you most passionate about in science or embryology?
There's probably a couple of things, so I might do the couple of things. I love the scientists and the care they give. These extraordinary people, and often people think of scientists as the crazy white coat and the frizzy hair and, with a Bunsen burner. And these guys are, they are in there doing this extraordinary high precision microscopic science. But they're also incredible communicators. They care, they relate, they go above and beyond all the time. So I think it's the people that I'm really passionate about. I also love the technology. I think that an embryology lab, if you ever can go into one or peer in the window of one, is one of the most extraordinary places in the world. Phenomenal. So it's filled with these amazing machines and things. You think about what we can do with them. It's pretty extraordinary. You can create life outside of the human body and grow it and freeze it and biopsy it and things like that. So the technology is pretty extraordinary. So it's that kind of fusion of technology and people.
Yeah, I have a photo of my 5-day-old daughter, and I always think that is so cool. I have a photo of Alexia as an embryo. Who gets to do that?
That's right. Absolutely.
Us infertiles. Yeah. The perks of doing IVF. I just think that's so cool.
So true. And it's so true, like you said, that you guys get it from a patient's perspective too. So I remember going in for my final successful transfer, and I was at this point wanting a really good high resolution photo of my embryo, and the embryologist is like, yep, just wait 1 second, I'll email it through to you first. And it was just she's like, I'm going to give you the highest quality because what's on the screen isn't that great. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, I didn't really know that could happen, but it was amazing. And I got the perfect high res, and yeah, like you said, I've now got it as a water painting in the nursery, and it's beyond special. So, and it wouldn't have happened had the embryologist not had that insight and care for us as patients. So
Yeah, it's amazing to have your first photo is when you were 5 days.
Yes.
yeah,
Growth, like it's pretty extraordinary.
So surreal.
I certainly don't have one of those. So yeah,
Times have
so
changed.
it's I'd love to know what I look like as a blastocyst. So, but I think it's amazing. It is amazing, the technology.
So our next question, after egg collection, it can be such an anxious time for us patients. What is actually happening with our eggs and what can we expect next and what goes on behind the scenes in the lab?
So from that time where we collect the eggs, and obviously we may also be collecting and isolating the sperm sample, that custody of those eggs and sperm is given over to the laboratory, and then it all kind of goes behind a big door, and everyone, I guess, does wonder what goes on behind the door. So that process is initially on the first day we'll be taking the eggs and sperm and bringing them together. There's a couple of different techniques. We might just put the eggs and sperm in a dish together and hopefully they fertilise, or we might do a micro injection, which is where we take a really fine needle and inject a single sperm into the egg. So all of that's happening on the day of your egg collection. And there's a lot of little steps in between, but that's the basic. And then from there, there's these steps afterwards each day where we look at whether the eggs have fertilised and formed an embryo, and then we look at them normally a couple of times over the 5 days just to see how they're developing. We grade them. So that process is fairly minor, just looking at them growing. Most clinics may be using these time-lapse incubators, which are taking photos of them every 5 minutes now. So we don't need to take them in and out. We
Every
can just
5
look
minutes.
at the cameras
Wow,
every
okay.
5 minutes, yeah. Not every clinic has those, and that's okay. But some of the big ones, you'll have this video capture or time-lapse capture of them. So we can look at them and see how they're going, give updates if need be. And then normally there is a process of where maybe you might be coming in for a transfer. So we then have a look at them and select the best one for transfer. Maybe you're not having a transfer, you might just have them all frozen or cryopreserved, and there's a few reasons why we might do that. Sometimes you might be having genetic testing because you want to see whether your embryo is suitable to go back. Maybe your family has a rare disease or a disease that you're trying to not pass on to your child, or maybe you want to make sure it's got the right number of chromosomes and DNA inside of it. So then we might do the genetic testing and freeze. So all of this is happening. There's a lot happening every day in the lab. And of course, we've got embryos at every different stage every day. So we've got some that are day 1, some that are day 2. So it's this, they're all lined up and kind of synchronized one after the other. So there is a lot going on, and we're always looking at them, or not always looking at them, but we're always taking care of them, checking on them, maybe making new media for them to go into, maybe cryopreserving them. So it's a very busy, process in behind, but it can be really, I guess, anxious as a patient of what's happening, like what's going on, what do they look like. So, of course, there is a lot of patient updates and things that are going on as well. There's a lot of phone calls to patients, letting them know how they're looking, how many maybe we were able to freeze, how many we were able to take a little biopsy and send off for genetic testing. So there's certainly a lot going on behind those doors every day. And then there is that calling you and telling you if that's what you want updates, is giving that information back to hopefully help make you feel a bit less in the dark.
Yeah, I think me and Yao, we both went to the same clinic and we didn't get an update. And my clinic was actually 6 days. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It fell over a weekend. Were you the same?
Yes.
And I found that wait incredibly hard. I was not sleeping. I was so anxious. I was overthinking. That wait is so hard. So I kind of wish I had a couple of updates, not every day, maybe every second day, just to know if they were okay. I think I did ask my clinic why I couldn't get any updates, and I think they said we don't have the technology to check on the embryos. Did you get the same?
I think I didn't ask for it because I never experienced anything but just waiting till day 5 or 6.
Would it be a technology thing?
It can be two things. Yeah, one, it might be that these big incubators with the cameras in them, some clinics don't have them, and we don't like taking embryos in and out of incubators just to look at them because they really like to be in a safe, warm, dark incubator environment. And so the ones that have the cameras inside of them, you don't need to take them out. You can just look on a touch screen and you can see them developing. So it could be that. But I think if you are a patient going through, and it is a long time to wait with no update, it can be awfully anxiety-inducing. I think asking your clinic if they can give you a phone call. You don't want one every day. That's a lot. And embryos are so dynamic. They change so much that it can maybe cause more anxiety.
Yeah.
If it's every day and too much information, but certainly it's something to raise, and a lot of clinics can provide an update along the way, normally on day 3.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
And
day
then
3
5 and 6. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I could have handled day 3 and 5, but any more than that, I think would have just made me spiral even more. So, yeah, I get it.
It's a balance.
We have some friends that don't like any updates at all, which I get that. I think Jo said she didn't like any updates. Yeah. Now, the next question I'm really curious about, but patients often hear that an embryo has stopped developing. Why does this happen? And what does it actually mean for the embryo and the IVF process?
So sometimes we have to call a patient and say, unfortunately, your embryo has slowed down in its development or it has stopped developing. And a clinic might say something. We all use a bit different language, like some might say it's arrested in its development, it's stopped growing. And what this normally means is as embryos grow and develop, the cells go through division. So they divide 2 to 4 to 8, and so on. And along that way, normally by day 5, you want a blastocyst that has, somewhere in the realm of 100, maybe 140 cells in it-ish. And then as we're looking at them along the way, we might say it's gotten to 8 cells and then it stops growing from there. It doesn't divide anymore. Or it started to form a blastocyst, but then they just stop growing, or it doesn't form a good quality one. The reason for this can be multifaceted, and some of it we don't understand. One main reason can be that the chromosomes inside the cells, so the chromosomes are all the DNA strands that, we've all got 22 autosomes or 22 autosomes, and they're sex chromosomes in all of our cells. And that is the blueprint for how you will become who you are. Sometimes you can have an incorrect number of those. And it's a term a clinic might use is aneuploidy. It's a complex, and I'm sure you've heard aneuploidy before. That means the chromosome number is incorrect. And that can be a big reason why an embryo will stop developing. But there's probably a number of other reasons that are so complex and we don't understand in biology that maybe it can't make enough energy anymore. Maybe it's trying to make energy, but the energy is not sufficient, or it goes down the incorrect energy pathways. So there's a huge amount why we don't understand why an embryo stops developing. We can have a theory or an idea. So it can be a really hard thing to hear that, and for us to say we don't actually know why. And that's probably one of the frustrating things, is the lack of answers sometimes.
Yeah. I've heard that before, the energy piece. And it kind of it does make a lot of sense, even though it doesn't fully explain it.
Yeah.
But I feel like if someone was to say that to me, I can accept that.
Yeah, agreed.
One of the main things is, inside all of our cells are these little powerhouses called the mitochondria, like the MitoHope study, the mitochondria, like the little, remembering back to year 12 biology, the little powerhouses, the factories that make energy, and they can just not make energy well.
Okay.
And so that's one of those little factories aren't working properly.
Yeah.
So that's one of the ways we try and explain it. But it's hard. We often just don't know. Yeah.
It must be hard also for you guys to deliver the bad news too.
It can definitely be very difficult.
Okay, so the next one, I feel like all of us patients can get stuck on this, so I'm sure you can give us some insight. What is embryo grading and how important is it?
This is one of the most common questions, I think. It is the fact that in an IVF lab, we have ways of looking at an embryo, and we know what an embryo should be doing more or less at varying stages throughout its development. And then for us to then be able to rank them or give an indication of how well they are progressing, we give them a grade. And clinics use different grading. So it might be 1, 2, 3, 4, it might be an A, B, C, D, then there'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and an A, B or a C, C.
We love
and
it.
it's very complicated. We love it. We love a complex grading system.
A, B, C, double A.
Did you have a BB? Yeah. It's very complex. So the main purpose for it is for us to be able to look at a group of embryos and work out, are they doing what we expect them to do? If they are doing it, to what quality are they doing it? So it is a really important thing for us in the lab because it's very important information for picking embryos to be transferred back and picking the best one, how we rank them and grade them, and also providing information back to your doctor to say, look, this is what they looked like, and then they can use that information to know whether or not it was as expected or poorer or for your age and your infertility diagnosis. The one thing I'd say about grading is that we all use there is a bit of difference in grading across labs. So what one person, if they're friends at a different clinic, may have a different grading system, and then we can all get very confused as you try and talk about it. The other thing that's really interesting is that it is there's an element of subjectivity to it. So what I think is a grade A, one of you might think is a B, and that is a well-documented phenomenon. You know, it's not, a computer doesn't necessarily do it. It's a human grading it with their eyes. So if you have one person has say a blastocyst, and you might have this, it might be a 4BB, you know, that's one of our common ones. I might call it a 4BB, and then my colleague comes over and goes, oh gosh, no, that's a 4AA. Oh. So really we try and get people to not get too hung up on the grading. It is important. But when afterwards you're talking to your friends and you hear, oh, mine was a B and hers was an A and hers was better than mine, try not to get too, obsessed with that, because there is a little bit of subjectivity in it, and we've seen beautiful embryos not implant, and I've seen ones that are poor quality implant. So it's not definitive, but it is a ranking tool, and it is a way of us having some indication of how the cycle has gone.
I really like the way you've explained that, and I just feel so reassured, because that is, I feel like, the number one thing us patients talk about.
And
my embryo was this quality, this is the grading, oh my God, it's not going to work.
The comparison.
My embryo isn't hatching. This is what it looks like, everyone. Is it okay?
Yep.
And we all talk about it.
And we share photos and all of it. It's wild.
Yeah. And I feel like you can go into a transfer and just talk yourself out of it and think it's not going to work because it's graded like this.
Yeah, just based on a grade and maybe an image if you've got one. But yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, but I just love the way you explained it and the wording. I feel like, yes, everybody needs to listen to that when going through IVF, because it's just, a great way to explain it for sure.
And then, is it true that some clinics, like you said, because the grading's so different, I think when I moved clinics, I was told by my doctor, oh, we wouldn't have transferred your last two. That was just they wouldn't have been graded for us. We would have graded, I think it was 1, 2, 3, and that would be it. But that's probably a 4, and we wouldn't have, so it's just wild.
Mm. There is a little bit of difference in, and again, because this is, whilst we do have, there are some universal grading methods, absolutely, but there are variances in that across the world even. There are as well some variances in clinics of what they will and will not transfer and freeze. Yeah. And that is, again, a little bit subjective. Obviously, they want to give you the best chance. Some people are a bit more lenient. So you might go to one clinic and they'd look at an embryo and say, oh, we would never transfer and freeze that. Another clinic would say, absolutely, it's got a 10% chance and 10% is better than 0. Yeah. So there is a lot of that in the industry, and it's not a bad thing. It's just that this is a slightly subjective process, because it is all being done predominantly by human eye. Maybe not in the future. Maybe there'll be more AI in this space, but for the time being, it is humans looking at this and making decision. The other thing I would say is they change so much from hour to hour So what you've got in front of you isn't necessarily what it's going to be in an hour or two. So it's also just a snapshot in time that they've looked at it and put it back in you. We don't know beyond that as well.
So your C could become an A by the time you walk out the door.
Yeah, who knows? Well, obviously, if it was good, if it forms a beautiful baby. So
That's right.
there is an element of this that is, we don't understand either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's good.
I wanted to talk about the attrition because I feel like that is something a lot of people don't understand well as well. But can you explain the IVF attrition and its difference based on the age of the egg?
Yeah, absolutely. So IVF attrition is where the number of eggs you've got starts to reduce, as you look at the eggs. Are they mature? Then you inseminate them. Did they fertilise? Then do they form a good quality day 3 embryo? Do they form a good quality blastocyst? So as you go from that egg number that you collect in theatre down to the end point over 5 to 6 days, the number does diminish. So, for example, normally around, let's say about 80% of eggs that we collect are going to be mature. So just because we get an egg doesn't mean it has matured. Then from there, normally around 60, 70%, say 70% will fertilise.
Yep.
Then of that group, maybe around, depending on your age, 30 to 50% will form a blastocyst. And then, of course, depending on your age, the number of those blastocysts that have the normal chromosome number is also going to diminish further. So if you're really young, it'll be quite high. It might be around 70, 80% are normal chromosome number. But if you're a lot older and you're in your 40s, that number's going to be a lot lower. So when you come in and you think, I got 10 eggs, that doesn't mean you've got 10 embryos. So that attrition is a little bit based on age and also your particular infertility diagnosis. Obviously, every patient is unique. So when those numbers are quoted, they're average. So, of course, you're completely, unique. Someone might end up with 3 eggs and 3 blastocysts, but someone might end up with 10 eggs and none. So that's the attrition. Everyone is unique, but that's sort of often used as a bit of a guide so you know what to expect.
Yeah. And it's true that even if you don't have infertility, but you're doing IVF for different reasons, it can still apply, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So true.
So we see it, in patients who are coming through maybe for a specific genetic test because they don't want to pass that on to their child. So they're not traditionally infertile. They're accessing the technology for a different reason. The same concepts apply.
It's crazy. The attrition always was something that blew my mind at the start. I was like, oh, wow, you get this big expectation and then every little part of that cycle, it just chips away. And I think it's something that,
You never get used to.
Yeah, you don't get used to, and I wish I knew at the beginning. So I think you've explained it really well for anyone that's about to start their journey. I think it's pretty helpful. Okay, so the next question, can small differences in lab conditions like temperature or air quality really affect embryo outcomes?
Absolutely.
Wow.
The embryology lab is like, it is because the labs and our incubators and everything we do in there, we're taking a process that would normally happen inside a human body, which is a very well-controlled environment from temperature, gas phase, like what level of oxygen is in the uterus, is it dark? It's completely dark in there. There's no light inside the uterus. So, you think about that. We're doing all of that inside a lab. So all of that is critical. And the embryo is exquisitely sensitive to its environment. It's not able to regulate itself very well. It's quite a vulnerable little thing. So inside an IVF lab, our temperatures are always monitored. We check every piece of equipment for their temperature. There's constant monitoring in incubators. You're always got little thermocouples and probes looking at your temperature, your gas concentration, what's the oxygen level, what's the carbon dioxide level, and really as well just the air. So I think a lot of patients, some clinics will say, when you come in for your transfer, I don't want you wearing perfume.
Yeah.
And that's because eggs and embryos don't like the things inside of perfume, which we call volatile organic compounds or VOCs. So a lot of clinics will say, don't come in wearing strong perfume or aftershave or that sort of thing. And you'll see signs up, in our hallways and things and theatres saying you don't go in if you've got perfume on. So very sensitive to the environment, and that's why we're always monitoring constantly what's going on in there.
We recently done an episode where we spoke about our egg collections and we were so paranoid, and I don't know if your patients do this as well. We didn't wash our hair because the shampoo and conditioner was
For egg collection.
So we didn't wash our hair. You didn't wash your hair, did you? I didn't wash mine. So I had like 5-day-old hair. Is that will it be okay? Can we wash our hair?
It's wild.
Probably
the things you do, right?
Yeah. Probably hair. I mean, hair, that's a new one for me. Actually, that's
we take it to another level.
That's a whole nother level. I've heard of deodorant as well. People saying I don't wear deodorant. I'm like, I think deodorant's okay. It's more the really strong stuff that you can smell, and things like perfumes are really like, normally if you're standing next to someone, just standing next to them, you can't normally smell their shampoo and conditioner. But it's not going to harm if you didn't wash your hair. So
wash your hair, guys.
It's good for you. But I think washing your hair, wash it 2 days before, you'll be fine. A day before, you'll be fine.
Okay.
I love it. And does that mean like you embryologists like save money on perfume? Like really, you're working.
You never wear it to work.
Yeah, you can't wear it.
You're not allowed.
So your perfume must last a long time.
It does. It's often, it sits there, the bottle gets a bit dusty. But they definitely don't wear perfume. You'll often notice they're not wearing, there's no heavy makeup or there's no nails. No, we don't allow nail polish or shellac or anything like that, because these things, not only do they leave residue on all of our equipment and microscopes, but also they can emit volatile compounds and things. So you often see your embryologists, they're not glamorous looking normally when you encounter them. They're normally, no fragrance, probably fragrance-free deodorants or really low-odor deodorants, because it can get a bit warm in the lab. So that's what you'll see, because they're pretty sensitive and we don't want to do anything that could impact.
Our little embryos.
I know. Yep. And the way you explained the environment of the embryo, I didn't realize they were in a dark. Yeah. Like I thought it was, for some reason, I imagined like it was light in there.
Yeah, like the labs.
Like it was bright in the little where they're stored. And I didn't realize the temperature. Tanks. So is it like, what's the temperature? Is it like 25 degrees?
Is it like body temperature?
Yeah.
No.
So the labs themselves are, when you walk in them, are normally set at around 22, 23 for the scientists so they can function. But in every, otherwise they're not going to work in 37 degrees. But in every piece of equipment, like you'll see in our labs, we have all of our incubators, they're set at 37, which is body temperature. And then we move them into these, we call them a crib, which is a handling environment where our arms are inside them, kind of like a humidity crib that babies would go into, but we are inside them with our little hands in them.
Cute.
So we're in we call them cribs or isolates. And inside of that, we're working in 37 degrees. Our big microscopes have big chambers around them that are all at 37 degrees. So we do everything we can to keep them at 37 degrees, and occasionally they will encounter light if we want, when we're doing the microinjection, but they're normally in the dark. And in our big incubators that have cameras in them, they will take a picture, but they take a picture using a specialised wavelength of light that doesn't disrupt the embryo. So it's not like the light in a room; it is a specialised type of light that doesn't hurt the embryo.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah, what a setup.
Yeah. I know.
Don't come in and turn all the lights on. You're not having a ring light there.
Yeah, no.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So the next question, do embryologists ever notice patterns that help predict embryo success, or is it mostly unpredictable?
So there is an element of embryo development that is what we would expect to see. So there are the things that we look for that we go, that's what I want to see at this point in time. That's exactly the thing that it should be doing. And then there are the things that sometimes embryos can do that we go, oh, that's not really what an embryo should be doing. Now, when we look at that and go, if we see that, we can't say that one will not work or it will work, because we know that's completely not the case. But there are certain things that an embryo may do, or that we might go, okay, that embryo has done something, and I would then deprioritise that one. So, for example, the things we look for are nice, normal, equal cell division. So as the cells divide from 2 to 4, that they all look about the same shape and size as they divide evenly. If it's doing it unevenly, we might go, oh, that's not quite what we would like at the moment. So that's less predictive of a good outcome, or less, indicative of a good outcome, but not definitive. As it grows into a blastocyst, we'll look at how big and expanded it is. Is it hatching, like you said before? Those are things that we go, oh, that's indicative of what we would like it to do, and higher likelihood of implantation, but not definitive. And then there are things that it might go from 2 cells to 4 cells back to 3.
Really?
So it does this weird thing called reverse cleavage,
wow.
which has been linked to, a lower likelihood of success. So the embryologists are looking at all of this and going, how do I use this knowledge to pick the better one for transfer? And that's how we use that knowledge and rank and freeze or, prioritise. But it's not necessarily, if it does this, it will not work. If it does that, it will work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Of course, when they stop dividing, that's pretty predictive of not working, obviously, but it's a very grey, interesting journey that little embryos go through that we look at and, grade them on or note things.
That's really interesting that they can go from 3 back down to 2. I didn't even know. Is that quite common to happen?
Not like you do see it, absolutely. It's not like a 1 in 10,000 or anything. Okay. So it is these unusual things, and we don't understand why they do that necessarily. But we know if they do that, the likelihood of them forming a successful pregnancy is lower. Another really one that everyone will probably hear about is fragmentation. The fragments, everyone. So the analogy I use with that is like the cells are dividing. It's like breaking a biscuit in half. You get crumbs, like there are the crumbs. And so a little bit of crumb is okay, but when you get a lot of it, it is indicative that maybe something's not quite right with that embryo, so you might deprioritise it. So those are the sorts of things that we look for.
I think I'd get attached to my embryos. Do you guys get attached to your embryos?
We do. We love looking at them. We love looking at them. We go in, and I still will go in. Like, I don't go in the lab as much anymore, and I'm not a practicing embryologist anymore with my role, but I still will go in and tap on the time-lapse incubators and just look at them.
Aww.
And they're just, some of them are so extraordinary. They're so cute.
They are cute. And you know what? We were talking about the water paintings that we have, but with these time-lapse ones, we could have had like a first album before their first album.
Have a video, a full video. Yeah, it's extraordinary,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Okay, sorry, I took us off track, but I had to ask. I think if I was an embryologist, I'd be like you.
We are very attached to them. Very attached. We love them. Yeah.
Okay, so next question. What does a perfect embryo look like under the microscope?
Yeah, tell us. We want to know.
Oh, God. Oh, this feels a bit discriminatory. So I don't like there are if you ask any embryologist and you put up a picture of certain embryos, they'll just be like, oh God, that's beautiful. Look at that beautiful embryo, right? And normally it tends to be, there's probably the perfect embryo at different stages. So what is a perfect day 3 embryo? It's this 8 to 12 cell embryo. All the cells are the same shape, and there's very minimal crumbs or fragmentation, and the cells are all a nice even colour or translucency. Versus, day 4, where it's this beautiful little morula, which is like, looks a bit like a raspberry. All the cells are smushing up against each other, and, looks really cute. It's a little morula. We love morula. Or there's the blastocyst, where you can go, look at that beautiful honeycomb, like, trophectoderm layer, the placental layer, and the little inner cell mass. So each stage there is what we would consider perfect, textbook perfect. But I think there's all the shades of grey in between, and we're all a little subjective in what we think is perfect versus maybe not as perfect. So again, it goes back to that grading comment. We can all get a little bit hung up on it, on whether or not your embryo is perfect. And we know there's a lot of beautiful babies where they were maybe not perfect. Mm-hmm. So, there is the textbook perfect, and we could all show you pictures of them. But, I try to not get too hung up on the grade and whether or not yours was a perfect embryo.
Yeah, I think they're all perfect.
They're all unique.
Yeah, they're all perfect.
Yeah, they are.
All
absolutely.
perfect to us.
Yeah, that's it.
All perfect.
So the next question, even when eggs appear mature, sometimes they don't fertilise. Why does this happen, and what does it mean for the IVF process?
So this can be a hard one because obviously, as we talked a little bit about attrition, the numbers kind of drop off a bit from stage to stage. And this is one where we may call you and say, you got 12 eggs and we injected 10 of them using that microinjection technique, and patients will think, brilliant, 10. And then, then the next day we come in and we say, only 4 of them fertilised. And the response might be, but, you injected them, so why are they not all fertilised? And unfortunately, that injection, or even when sperm come together with egg, I liken fertilisation to a cascade. There is, 100 steps that need to happen for that fertilisation. And we did the first one, we put the sperm in, but then there's all this stuff afterwards. There's a lot of signalling, the sperm signals to the egg. There's these big calcium fluxes, and calcium goes up and down and up and down. So all of these things that need to happen, a series of events, we don't control. We can't control. That's just, we will see. So that's why often, we might have put the sperm in, but all the other things needed to happen, and sadly, often they don't. And that's why that average fertilisation is 60 to 70%, because for a number of eggs, for whatever the reason is, maybe it was the egg, the sperm, who knows, it just didn't get through all those steps to fertilise successfully.
What's the signalling? I've never heard that before. The sperm signalling? Well, what does that mean?
So the sperm, when we put the sperm in, it then triggers, like I said, a cascade of things, but one of them is this release of calcium from the little departments inside the egg, the little organelles, and you get these calcium waves that start going up and down and up and down, that then triggers this sort of signal to commence the fertilisation process. And there's more after that. But it's such a complicated thing, fertilisation. It's not just sperm going in. It's like a series of events, many of which I don't know, to then get that, that little zygote or little fertilised egg. So any of those could go wrong. Wow. And often we will never know. Yeah.
All right. So next question. What's one thing you wish every patient understood?
Oh, that's a big one. There's so many things.
Just one thing.
Just one thing. I think it's probably just one thing. What one thing would I want to say? I'm just going to give me one thing.
Maybe a few.
Give us
a few.
Okay. So what I think would be really important for patients to understand is how much these embryologists care about them and their journey, and every single embryo is absolutely precious. So I think knowing that because it is a big trust thing to pass over this precious material to these people, so they care so much. For your outcome. It is of incredible importance to them. They're a very precise, paranoid bunch of people. They always go above and beyond. They stay late. when things don't, maybe the day doesn't work out exactly as planned, they will stay until the end. They're always on call. They're always, if something happens and they get a phone call, they're coming in. They are an incredible bunch of people. And I also think to know that they're there if you need them. And again, it's this, they're not a strange bunch of crazy scientists. They are normally incredibly good at communication and care and want you to feel looked after, and also that no question is stupid. So they will, I think a lot of people maybe don't want to ask it, or they don't want to look like silly.
Yeah, so true.
We love questions because they love what they do. So don't ever feel like it's a silly question. Ask them. If you have something burning, call and get an embryologist to call you back if they're the ones who'll be able to help you. They're always there to, answer your questions or, listen and, explain what it means always, even after your cycle's finished. So they're always there if you needed to clarify something with them afterwards.
Yeah, and that's something we always say.
Yeah.
Call your embryologist.
Always. You get forgotten. On the journey, you forget the embryologist, sort of like,
because we don't get to see you guys.
Because
we might get a phone
you're in the
call.
lab.
Yeah, you're in the lab. You're busy.
So.
But I think as patients, we get so anxious, and sometimes we say, "I don't want to call my clinic.
Yes.
I don't want to be annoying. I don't want to call my embryologist, but I really want to know this. What do you guys think?" And we're asking each other. Pick up the phone and call your embryologist.
Yeah, so true. And it took me a long while in my journey to understand that it was okay to ask, like you said, to ask the questions rather than spiraling like we do.
You spiral.
Or Googling.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Don't Dr. Google.
Yeah. And it's just so much nicer to be able to get the answer from the embryologist than, even comparing, like we all do it, and then you sort of spiral on the other patient's experience and go to the source.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think even if you've spoken to your doctor but you just want to know a little more detail, just call the embryologist. They'll give you all of that detail in the best possible way and deliver it with the best care as well and empathy. So,
Yeah.
So the last question. Yes. So
call your embryologist.
The last question, the 5-day wait after egg collection can be incredibly stressful. What tips or strategies have you seen work well for patients to manage this anxiety?
That's a really good one. I think we've talked a little bit about this before, about not having a void of information. If that will help you to get an update or two throughout, ask for that. And they will be giving it to you. They should be, because it is a long, anxious wait of what is going on and you don't know. So I think if that helps you, ask for it and get it. If you don't want it, that's also completely fine. There are certainly people who just go, nope, I'll wait to my final update on, say, day 6. So there's that. I think during the 5 days I would say the best thing I've seen is self-care, is the patients who do stuff to try and, look after themselves, do some things that make them feel good, sitting, reading a book, going for a walk, having massage, just things that goes to your mood, just anything that will take your mind off really, obsessing with it or worrying about it or Googling and looking up things obsessively, as we all do. I certainly do it. So I think it is really about self-care, support, like are there people you can talk to if you're spiraling a bit. Normally clinics have amazing counsellors that people don't use. They are extraordinary, the counsellors, and are normally there just to normalise how you're feeling. So, utilising them, because a lot of the time people, I don't want to waste their time, or I don't want to be a burden. You're not a burden. They're there to help you. So self-care, get an update if you need it. I just think it's looking after yourself. Absolutely.
I love that.
Yeah, that's so true.
Did you do the self-care thing? I feel like you probably didn't.
I didn't do it for most of my journey, but I did in my successful
I did for my successful transfer as well, actually. I really did. I mean, after the day one, I was really stressed and stuff. I was really, really stressed, but I did do all the little things that bring me joy.
Yeah.
And it felt good to do as well.
We talk about it sometimes,
Yeah.
you know, that it helps so much. Like, and it can be, like you said, just getting a massage or reading a book or something so
small
simple.
things.
Yeah.
Small nice things are important.
Yeah.
You
Do you
know.
have a lot of patients that say to you, embryologist, oh my God, I just had my transfer. Can I go to the toilet? We get so scared to go to the toilet. Do you get that a lot?
We do.
And
We
maybe
get that
can you
a lot.
reassure us a little bit before we end this episode?
Absolutely, because it's one as well. Normally when we ask you to have your transfer, we ask you also to have a fairly full bladder because
so
we want the window, we want
Yeah.
the fluid window, so it helps us with where we're putting, you know, where the clinician will put it. And then you're sitting there busting and going, oh my God. So one of the good ways I think that I've heard a lot of doctors and things explain it. And the way we sort of say it is the uterus is like a potential space. It's like squished up against each other. You know, some use a jam sandwich. It's a terrible analogy, but, you know, it's like this, and we put the embryo up inside in the uterus, so it can't fall out.
Okay.
If you get up and walk around, it can't fall out. If you go to the toilet, it cannot fall out. So there might be some things a clinic says not to do after your transfer. I think they, you know, still advise don't go run a marathon or anything. That's not a good idea. So you can always ask them in your transfer room, and they will reassure you that the toilet, go. And normally they run, like put the sheet around you and you run. Off you run because you just can't. So there is not a worry about going to the toilet at all.
I done like a half let out.
That was before transfer? I did that too.
No, after transfer. I just couldn't. I was just like, no, let me just hold on for a little.
Oh, you're so cute. Yeah.
That's cute.
I think
yeah.
My
No,
back
it's
is fries.
totally
Then I
fine.
went to the toilet after my back is fries.
No, it's totally fine to go to the toilet.
Yeah,
Feel free.
I think after my first transfer, I was like you. I was like, I'm not going. I'll just get home and then I'll go. But then I asked and and I got reassured. I think by the fourth time I was like, all right, I'm going straight to the bathroom after.
You're a bit.
No, you'll be tortured otherwise.
I was also the annoying patient that would be like, can I go to the toilet before transfer? Because I'm really busting. The nurses would be like, well, how, like just a little bit, okay? And
Just
I'd be
a
like,
little
that's
bit.
really hard. I'll just stop it. I won't bother.
That happens all the time. All the time. It's a delicate balance.
You're nervous as well.
Oh, the nerves, all of
you're
it.
so
Yeah.
nervous. Like you just need to do that nervous pee. You know, that nervous toilet run.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's
I
wild.
completely understand. It is very common.
The things we
Very
do.
common.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. I'm glad we ended it on that note. But thank you so much for joining us, Professor
Yeah.
Deirdre.
Pleasure.
I love
It was
this
amazing.
episode.
Yeah, you were so
I know the
good.
listeners are going to love this one. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's been absolutely delightful.
Thank you, everyone.
And
Thanks, Professor.
thanks.
And next week. See you next week. Bye, guys.